Hello, hey, how's it going? Hey yo, hi yo, how's it going? Let's have some fun. There we go. Tune your oscillators, folks. Cool. So that was a fun little jam going on here. Yeah. Yes. Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Hope you're having fun. So I have a new toy, one of many. I have the new noise engineering Xer Mixa, or as I like to call it, Xer Mixa-lot. Get it? Anyway, let me switch off my AC so it's not as noisy on my voice. So the Xer Mixa is a nice little stereocentric mixer, which is super neat. There was not anything like this before, and like literally 3 weeks later, there's like 5, but we'll talk about that. So Xer Mixa, fun little stereo mixer. It has 10 inputs stereo. So if you think about that, that's 20 different audio inputs coming into the thing, which is pretty sweet. 10 input stereo, 3 different stereo outputs, and you can route them all sorts of fun ways, which is what we're going to kind of play with today. Try some different things out. The real special sauce, I think, in my opinion, my take, is the fact that this whole thing is digitally controlled. So it's an analog mixer. No audio is being converted to digital at any point, but it has digital control over everything and recall which is super neat. So you can set up scenes and then change the scenes on the fly, switch back to them, do interesting things like that. So that's really cool. Pausing to catch my breath, man. So the other cool thing is it has an expander. So if you note that the module itself, just the core module, has no CV inputs, they have a designated expander for that. So you can have up to 16 CV inputs if you have 2 expanders. I just got the 1. I don't think I'll need more than that. And it's got this really cool matrix routing, sort of. I guess you'd call it matrix routing, in the mixer, where you can basically route any input of the expander to multiple different destinations, and you can have up to 32 routings. So I can say, I want this, I just have like a ducking envelope coming out of the NerdSec. I want it to route it to the reverb or to multiple channels on the mixer. I can set those up really easily and just have one input do all of that. I don't have to like copy or mult cables out or stuff like that. It all happens in the mixer. So, let's see. Oh, the other special sauce is the MIDI in, which I'm not probably going to play with today, but worth talking about because it's pretty neat. But fundamentally, you have MIDI in and MIDI out/through. So you can do all sorts of fun. Actually, I think I think it's MIDI through. All sorts of fun mixing controls. If you had an external controller that you wanted to use, or for example, a sequencer, and you wanted to use MIDI to sequence the Xer Mixa, you can do that, and it's really powerful. Sounds great. So the demo you heard, the audio, the only thing it's going through after the Xer Mixa is I have the 4MS wave recorder, and then that's just going out to the audio outputs to my main mixer board for the streaming. So there's nothing else processing on the mixer, on the mix output right now. The Polydactyl Versio, the Overseer are not currently in the patch. So we can do a little demo, and I'm going to want to record it this time because I'm not a dummy. So let's do that. Boom. The mute switches are really nice, by the way. BT dubs. Hey, I actually remembered to hit record this time. on the 4MS. So I have a funny story about this mixer, as Blue Nautilus in chat alluded to. As far as I know, and I have basically confirmed this with Noise Engineering directly, I am the first person to ever order a Xer Mixa. So I don't know if you guys know this, but the page, like the product page for the Xer Mixa, went live early, accidentally. And so the way I found out about it is somebody posted it on the EasyBot Discord, just the product page, and they got it. Somebody else, I don't know how they found it, but it was on the Modwiggler forum. Somebody posted a forum thread with the link to it. And I had been looking for a mixer exactly like this for a while, and I have high confidence in Noise Engineering, so I just bought it as soon as the product page was live. And so apparently it wasn't supposed to be live, basically. And I apparently sent Chris at Noise Engineering into a panic, basically wondering how the page got live, because she got like a notification email basically saying like, oh my God, there's an order. How's there an order? This thing isn't even released yet. So that was very, very funny. Anyway, it all worked out for the best. Noise Engineering, awesome people. They make awesome stuff. So I had high confidence, which is why it was, I didn't feel any risk in kind of throwing my money at the thing as soon as I saw it, because I knew what, based on just what I was reading, what it was and doing, and I was excited. So it all worked out for the best. And yeah, the people have heard about this story elsewhere, like it came up at NobCon, which is really funny. But yeah, fun new module mixer, the Xer Mixa-lot. So I want to try a couple things. There's some really cool stuff with how you can do audio routing on the Xer Mixa. So per channel, if I click on the select buttons per channel, you can see them here. You can actually select multiple channels at once, which is super neat. If you hold one and select a bunch, you can select multiple channels. You can make changes to those channels. You can see a bunch of parameters about those channels. You can see pan, stuff like that. I can pan them all. I can pan them all the other way. I can put them back in the middle. Let me get some audio going so you actually hear this. Here's the pan. To the right. To the left. We can change the pan on these. Put them back to the center. All sorts of fun stuff like that. So that's cool. The other super cool thing, which I want to try now, is you can do like, rather than using the A and B outputs and the A and B returns as a send, you can actually have them be more like buses in like a bigger mixer. So the idea of a bus is you are kind of submixing things together, doing something with that submix, and then bringing it into your main mix. So in this case, you can actually use the A and B as a submix, because you can, if I just take, for example, the drums, I'm going to disconnect the drums completely from the main output. So like when I select a channel, if I hit config, I can go to each channel. I can say send M, and I'm going to say off. So you can hear our drums are gone, right? And I turn it back on. Then there they're back. So that's neat. That's super cool, right? You can kind of like pull stuff out of the mix, and now I can go back and I can say send it through A. So now my volume control still works because this is all set to be, the send to A is post fader. But I can now do this on like a per channel basis. I can say, hey, disconnect this from right. I can disconnect things from the main mix. Maybe I want this one to only go through the delay at max volume. So that's really cool, right? Like you don't even, like this still controls the volume, but it's now controlling the volume essentially to whatever the send is. So I can set my send levels and still use this to govern the control, which is super neat. So if I want to undo that, I can just get config and say, go back to main. And I can turn down the send if I wanted to, maybe turn them both up a little bit. If I want, this guy, go back here, we can say bring it back to main. So that's neat, just in itself, right? Like being able to do that is very cool. What if we want to make it so that's like a thing that happens in a set? So I'm going to use what we have now. I'm going to go to config, I'm going to go to scene. I'm going to say save, I'm going to say save A. Now I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to channel this guy, take him out of the mix, go to make it only through the delay, do the same on this one, take him out of the mix, make him only through the delay. Maybe we'll have it go through the reverb too. Cool. So now if I go back, and I say scene, and I say save, now I save B. So now we're on scene B, effectively. And now I can say load. I want to load A. That's cool, right? Now we're right back to where we were before. Now I want to load B. That's really neat. Like, there are very few mixers that do that, period. Let alone ones in Eurorack. Like, there's no other mixer with a big asterisk, which I'll talk about in a second, that does that specifically. It has that kind of like recallability. Oh, I just did what I didn't want to do. Oops. Anyway. That's super cool, right? That is very, very powerful. And where it gets real spicy, let's say you had something, I don't know, like a nerd sack or something that was, a very powerful sequencer or something like that, that could, I don't know, send MIDI program change. Oh, the wheels are turning. So you can actually, there are, what is that, seven scenes. 7 scenes of swimming. You can actually recall each scene via a program change message over MIDI. So you could have your NerdSec track with a set scene for a track or a set scene per part of a track or whatever you want to do. Have it say, okay, make the Xer Mixa scene A, and it does the thing over MIDI. Then you have it be like doing some stuff and happening, cool things are happening. Then you go, make it scene B, and it does the thing all over MIDI. That's crazy. Like, that's very powerful. Like I said, very Very few other mixers in general can do that. And the fact that we can do it in Eurorack on an analog mixer, is really neat. So that's some special sauce there. The other cool things, let's see. Oh yeah, we got our cool ducking envelope. So this is just kind of an example of the just turn all these up, it's fine. So for example, I want to take we're just going to force everything to be on A for its end. I'm actually going to drop the drum so you can hear this. We can actually make that envelope decay a little bit longer. So I have it side chaining the reverb. So the reverb is going out A, back into A, and I have the little expando expandy input 1 is ducking the reverb. So that's cool. What if I wanted to duck something else? Or in addition to, right? I can say new mod. Now it's ducking input 1 in addition to the reverb. Let's change it. Let's do a new mod. I want to change this to be 8. We need to change this. So that's cool, and guess what? That mapping, we can store that as a scene. Let's store it on G. Now I can load back A. And we're back to where we were. I can load up G. Whoa, right? Like, that's pretty cool. And that's one cable, right? Like, to do that on something like the performance mixer, which you could do it. It's not impossible. You could do it. You'd have to basically have some sort of ducking envelope, first off, which, I mean, like, the NerdSec can do it. But I'm actually using the envelope coming out of the NerdSec is voltage positive. It's not ducking itself. You'd have to invert the envelope. You'd have to multiply out that envelope to each thing you wanted to duck. And then you'd have to attenuate per thing how much ducking you wanted, right? Some things you want maybe to go all the way down. Some things you only want a little bit, right? Depending on what you're doing. So you could do that. It would be a lot of patch cables and a decent amount of modules to be able to do that. This is one. This is one patch cable to do that. And the config can change too, right? Like in one song, I want these things to be ducked. In another song, I want this thing to do this thing completely differently, right? So like, that's crazy. Yeah, man, I don't know. This thing is just like one of the more exciting modules I've seen in Eurorack in a while. So, just really quick, the funny thing is that like we basically got like every mixer ever. It was like mixer season at KnobCon. So the Xer Mixa gets announced like a week before a KnobCon officially, or 2 weeks before at KnobCon. And then like at NobCon, 4 different kind of like crazy big mixers get announced. You got one from Board Brain, one from After Later Audio, one from Blue Box or 1010. And there might be more, but those are the ones that I remember. So maybe it's just 3. But and you have the WMD Performance Mixer Mark II is coming too. So you have these like, all of a sudden it's like we went from having one or two, I would say, kind of mega mixers in the sense of like multiple channels, multiple outputs, quality performance control, stuff like that, to now having like a nice plethora, and depending on the feature set and what you want, right? Like there's a lot of options out there. So the Xer Mixa, when it was launched, was like the only thing that could do that kind of like scene recalling. And I think the 1010 Blue Box can probably do that too. I didn't watch the Loop Hop video fully, but I think it can do something very similar. Big differences there in terms of how those are architected and feature set and what they can do. So again, Xer Mixa, digitally controlled analog. Your audio is fully analog all the way through. There's like 100 VCAs or whatever to do all of the kind of controlling and parameter control of the analog audio signal, but it all works. The 1010 Blue Box is a digital mixer completely. So your audio it comes in, it gets converted to a digital signal, gets processed digitally on the onboard computer, and then it's output via analog to digital converters. So big kind of difference there in terms of just a thought process and mindset on how those mixers work. So the cool thing about the Blue Box, if you've seen the Blue Box, it's basically the same thing except just in a Eurorack. But it has a built-in multi-track recorder, which is really cool. And that is something that is very, very interesting to me. If I hadn't already just picked up a 4MS wave recorder to do stereo recording, and it's probably fine, and it's good enough. But yeah, the Blue Box does full multi-track recording of each channel. It also has per channel each EQ, which is super neat. It also has built-in reverb and delay, if I remember right. Plus, you can also like arrange, I think, on it too, which is cool. So man, like if you're in the mood for a big mixer, like a powerful one, there's a lot of options. I like the noise engineering one. I think the feature set is right. Plus it has a nice black panel. I think the blue panel on the 1010 one is a little tacky to me. It's just an aesthetic preference, but not my favorite design choice that they've made. But maybe they'll do a black panel because they came out with a black panel for the bit boxes. So I don't know. I hope that happens. But yeah, I mean, like both seem really cool. I do kind of want to try the 1010 one. It doesn't have as many inputs. It has 12 total inputs, and I think you can configure them to be up to 6 stereo pairs, so you can do a combo of whatever you want. And I don't know how the latency is for like doing FX sends and stuff like that, so that might be interesting. But it does have, I think, 3 stereo outputs, 3 or 2. I don't remember. But you can definitely output multiple different audio signals, which is cool. Let's see. Any questions? I know there's like a few people here, but anything popping up? If not, that's cool. We can just jam more. Man, I got some like mouth ASMR going on right now. Oh, so the cool thing, this wasn't really clear, I don't think, in the video or the manual, but like this is the default screen, which you can't really see. But if I hit back, this is the default screen. It says pan, but in the default screen, it's actually the main level outs, which is very handy. I don't think that was super clear. And these encoders are nice and clicky. I think it's it's like the same encoder that's on Manus. Milk mouth. And the same goes for the outputs of the A and B groups. There we go. The one thing I have not noticed any channel bleed so far, which I know they called out like as part of their PR for the module, but just saying I can confirm as far as I can tell, no channel bleed. If I switch off these, it's very quiet. I can even turn up the gain on the 4MS just so you can kind of get a sense of like what's coming out. So that is like, I have everything muted. 20 dB gain, nothing. Like, not even a hiss. That's pretty good. If I unmute, like that's like that's really good. I don't even think the well, I don't know. I haven't tested it, but take that for what you will, right? Like that's a very, very clean signal to have 20 dB a gain and no noise. Like you can hear it, it gets loud. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of it. Let's see. How long have we been going for? A little bit. Just a little bit. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, this thing is really cool. I really like it. I think it's going to replace my performance mixer. It's about half the HP of the performance mixer. That's not really true, but it's definitely significantly smaller, and you get arguably more functional inputs. So the performance mixer, I think, has the base one has 6 mono inputs plus 2 stereo plus a mono send mono return, or plus 2 mono sends mono returns, but you can't use both at once, and or both at once per channel, I mean, but and then the expander adds an additional 2 stereo returns. And like there's some special sauce with the performance mixer where you can have each input on the mono, the 6 mono of the main module and the 2 stereo on the expander. You can have like an A and B. So like you can theoretically pull in more signals, assuming they're balanced together and you want them to be on the same channel. Or you can like A or B them, which is nice. But I mean, like, that's a lot, and I don't know, this, for what I do, like, I like the stereo stuff. I'm a big fan of stereo, and like 8 stereo is a lot and plenty, and like, if I wanted to, I can just reuse one of the send buses. Like, you can do a lot of stuff there. I am also a person who tends to have my drums on a separate either mixer, or like, in this case, I have a drum module that's dedicated to a stereo output, so a lot of options there too. Excuse me. Yes. Well, that's going to be about it. I'm going to do more videos and kind of like, I was talking to a couple of people about doing like a how-to and stuff like that on this thing. I'm sure Noise Engineer is going to do their own. But I think there's some cool stuff, right? Like if you can like send things through a compressor and then have it back into the main mix, and only do that for, channels 1 through 4, and 5 through 6 are just into the main mix, right? Like all sorts of fun stuff there, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I will see you all next time. Thank you. Peace.